Hello everybody! It feels like I haven't sat down and done one of these introductions for a cover to cover for ages, and that is because I filmed 2 episodes in 1 month 2 months ago to prep for when I was going to be away in September, so this feels weird now to be sat down introducing another one, but this is episode 9 of Cover to Cover, the series where I go on the search to find the best independent bookshop. For this episode, I actually scrapped my plans completely that I did have for this episode because I heard about a bookshop that I couldn't not include it for this video because it's called October Books. Like, that's literally perfect. It's perfect. So we're going to be heading to October Books today. I have some info about the bookshop on my screen next to me, and I'm just going to read directly from it because it's a description from the site themselves. So October Books describes itself as Southampton's premier independent bookshop. It's a local, radical and ethical bookshop and a community hub run by members of the neighbourhood. It specialises in social issues, feminism, gender studies, humanities and political issues, and they also have an online shop. So there's lots of non-fiction and fiction in this bookshop. I'm really excited to see it because this is the first community-run bookshop that I'm going to be going to within this series, I think. I'm pretty sure. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this bookshop differs to others I've been to. I think there's also a food/household goods section of this shop as well, so I think it's going to be a really interesting visit, and I'm just mainly excited that it's called October Books, okay? As you know by now, Cover to Cover is sponsored by National Book Tokens. National Book Tokens can be spent in bookshops across the UK and Ireland from WH Smith to WATERSTONES. One of the great things about them is they can be spent in hundreds of indies, including October Books. This month I have my trusty Bookshop gift card that National Book Tokens have topped up for me. This is something that can be topped up monthly, so it makes a really good gift or a way to budget your book buying. Just like National Book Tokens gift cards, Bookshop gift cards can be spent in bookshops across the UK and Ireland, including October Books. For the trip to October Books, I will of course be looking out for 4 main things. They will include bookseller recommendations, shop layout, atmosphere and book selection. I will be rating each of those things out of 5 with a possible 20 points available and then a 5 bonus points available depending on what I rate the book I buy in this bookshop. I always like to ask for a bookseller recommendation to read in this vlog. I have recently been asking for the bookseller's favourite books and seeing what direction that pushes me in, and it's been pretty good so far, so I think I'm going to do that again. I would love to get some kind of horror spooky season read for this video because that is pretty much all I'm reading this month, but we'll see what I come out with. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited. I'm excited to head off, so let's go see what October Books is like. Hello, I am back from October Books. I have got a stack of books to show you and I want to talk to you about this bookshop. So let's go through the bookshop. This bookshop is also a community hub and also somewhere that sells food and household items. So it's a really interesting and unique layout. So let's talk about the shop layout first. First off, when you go in the shop, there's a lovely open plan space with all the different books. There's lots of different categories of books. There's also a fiction and a non-fiction kind of split. And I think that worked really well. There was a nice little children's nook. There was a historical and political section. There was a section for feminist books. There was just a really great divide of all these books, so you knew where you were going for each specific book type. It also felt really open and friendly, and I really liked the fact that you could kind of weave yourself around the bookshop. I love it when bookshops have these little nooks and crannies, and there were quite a few of those, some of them leading through to the community hub area that also had an art exhibition happening. So all in all, I gave the shop layout a 5 out of 5. The atmosphere was pretty good. There was obviously a really nice sense of community here, and this is obviously somewhere people come to have as a safe space, and that was really apparent from the people coming in and the friendliness and communication going on between everybody. So I think it had a really nice atmosphere. It fit with the October vibes, to be honest, as well. The interior of the shop just kind of felt like it suited that name so perfectly. So for atmosphere, I've given it a 4.5 out of 5. The book selection was pretty decent. I expected it to have less fiction than it did, to be honest, because I knew that it focused more on the non-fiction. I didn't expect there to be quite as good a selection as fiction as there was. They were split into genres, which I think worked really well, and the bookshelves themselves were displaying in a way that made the browsing experience quite easy, so you could see more of the selection easier. So I would give the book selection a 4 out of 5. The reason I'm not giving it more than that is because kind of linked to the next point where we're talking about bookseller recommendations. So for the bookseller recommendations, I go in normally with like a rough idea of what it is that I'm after in terms of the genres that I enjoy, books I've recently enjoyed, but then I also want to know a bookseller's favourite book they've read that year, or just something that they really, really love, because I feel like that makes it more personal. And with independent bookshops, often the stock is picked by the booksellers, so there's always that nice personalised touch going alongside it. Now, I do sometimes notice I stump booksellers because I suppose what I'm asking for is fairly broad, as opposed to saying I'm looking for a historical fantasy around witchcraft. I'm not being too specific, which can be a negative or a positive, I suppose. And I think for the booksellers today, I might have stumped them a bit with being so broad, because a lot of the ones they were recommending to me, I already either had read or owned, which obviously meant they were good recommendations because it was books I was interested in. But beyond that, they were struggling to pick out ones for me off the shelves of stuff they had in stock, because they tend to keep only one book in stock at a time, and if that book sells then they have to wait to get more in. I'm giving them a 4 out of 5 for bookseller recommendations. We had a lot of chats about books, but I didn't leave with one specific highlighted recommendation from them, because either it wasn't in stock or the favourite books were ones that I had already read. So I have got some books to show you, but none of them are like specific bookseller favourites. So I still need to pick which one I'm going to be reading for this video. But at the moment, with the scores as they stand, the total score for October books is 17.5 out of 20. I really love this bookshop, and obviously, as I say every time, these ratings are just for fun. I'm trying to work out how to move this in if I do another season of this series. For season 2 of Cover to Cover next year, I'm trying to work out how to move this slightly away from the ratings, because I only ever did it to start with as it being just for fun, and it continues to be just for fun, but I don't know if it adds anything or not, and I often feel like I'm critiquing rather than just chatting about it, and I don't necessarily want it to go in that direction. So if you have any thoughts on that, please let me know. Like, do you enjoy the ratings? Does it make it more fun to watch? Would it take anything away if I remove them? I do question where that would leave me, like with the book that I read based off of the recommendation, because obviously at the moment that is offering 5 bonus points available, and that kind of adds that element of fun in there. So I don't know if I remove the ratings whether there would still be that intrigue there, but can you let me know what you think, because I'm always looking to grow and change and improve this, and I would love to know your opinions. Okay, the books I got. First off, not that this is a book, but they included this really cute little art piece, which is just lovely. But book-wise, I picked up 4 books. So these are all ones that I just picked up off the shelves, either ones I'd heard of before or ones that I had seen for the first time there. The first one, as soon as I walked in, that caught my eye is The Cliff House by Chris Brockmeyer. On the front of it, it says 1 party, 7 secrets, 1 worth killing for. I feel like there are so many books like this that have that kind of thread of a mystery, and there's probably quite a lot I have on my shelves. However, I can't resist them. They're very addictive. Jen's hen party is going to be out of control. She's rented a luxury getaway on a private island. The helicopter won't be back for 72 hours. They are alone, they think. As well as Jen, there's the pop diva and the estranged ex-bandmate, the tennis pro and the fashion guru, the embittered ex-sister-in-law and the mouthy future sister-in-law. It's a combustible cocktail, one that takes little time to ignite, and in the midst of the drunken chaos, one of them disappears. Then a message tells them that unless someone confesses her terrible secrets to the others, their missing friend will be killed. Problem is, everybody has a secret and nobody wants to tell. It just sounds fun, okay? It sounds fun. I also picked up Termush by Sven Holm. I have seen this about everywhere recently, and I keep picking it up and keep putting it back down again, and I thought, you know what? Now is the time to pick this up. So this is translated by Sylvia Clayton. Welcome to Termush, a luxury coastal resort like no other. All the wealthy guests are survivors who reserved rooms long before the disaster. Inside, they embrace exclusive radiation shelters, ambient music, and lavish provisions. Outside, toxic dust falls on the sculpture park, security men step over dead birds, and a reconnaissance party embarks. Despite weathering a nuclear apocalypse, their problems are only just beginning. Soon, the management begins censoring news, disruptive guests are sedated, initial generosity towards strangers ceases as fears of infection and limited resources grow. But as the number of external survivors increases, they must decide what it means to forge a new moral code at the end or beginning of the world. I think this sounds interesting. It's got the dystopia vibes, it's got the rebuilding society element to it and the morals that go alongside that, so I thought I'd pick this one up. Now this is possibly the one I will read for this vlog. Possibly. This is Red Dust, White Snow by Pan Hooting. This one intrigued me a lot. I'd not heard of this before, but I think it sounds really interesting. Who is to say dreams are insubstantial when whole lives can be lived in their pursuit? When an office worker receives a mysterious device promising to transport her to a parallel universe, she assumes it's just another marketing stunt. That night, she visits a fantastical place in her dreams. On waking, she returns to her normal life, only to return to the same dream the following night. At first, she finds the ongoing dreams bizarre, but the more time she spends in the dream world, the less she wants to wake up. Yet, as her fantasy begins to encroach on her waking life, dream and reality collide with drastic consequences. With sharp insight and wry humour, Red Dust, White Snow highlights the blurring of reality and fantasy in an increasingly virtual world. I think this sounds interesting. I do enjoy when things talk about dreams, and how many times have you woken up for a dream wishing you could return to it the next night? I mean, there's some I definitely don't want to return to, but a lot of them, I think that would be fun. So I picked this one up. This one might be the one I end up reading, because this one I'd never heard of. I'd only seen it in this bookshop. I like it when I feel like the book is more unique to that bookshop, and this one, the bookseller said they had heard good things about when I was checking out with it, so possibly this one and possibly the next one, although having just looked through these books before I was going to film this clip, I've discovered something a bit strange about this book. So I picked up the Book of Mirrors by E.O. Chiravoci, I think that is pronounced, I'll check that. The cover of this one I don't like at all, and honestly I'm kind of regretting my decision now, because I have now realised that I think this is a bad print edition of this book. So the thing that appealed to me, well, firstly, it's littered with reviews saying how clever and good it is. I think I've seen this about before. It's not a new release, it's from 2017. I think there's probably a reason it's still on the shelves in hardback, which I will go on to in a minute. But the blurb. Don't trust everything you read. Princeton, 1987. Renowned psychologist Professor Joseph Weider is brutally murdered. New York, 25 years later. Literary agent Peter Katz receives a manuscript. Or is it a confession? Today, unearth the secrets of the Book of Mirrors and discover why memories are the most dangerous weapons of all. So I thought that sounds interesting. It sounds like there's a little bit of reader participation in a weird way, maybe. All the reviews say it's fantastic. A literary thriller, complex, gripping, a beautiful read, elegant, gripping, multi-layered tale about the illusionary nature of truth and memory. I think it sounds intriguing. I'm pretty sure I've seen this about before. In fact, I'm now realising this was actually out when I was a bookseller back in the day, so I feel like maybe that's why I'm recognising it. Maybe I saw it on the shelves. But here's where I'm a little bit confused, because from the side there's this kind of coloured strip, and I was like, oh, what's that? Maybe it's mixed media. So I don't know how well you can see that, but there's literally like these two pages are glued together, but that's page 89 and then that is page 90 on the next page. So it's like there's two random blank pages that are stuck together, and then weirdly like this kind of printing error seems to be occurring quite a few times. And I thought, okay, right, that maybe is just an error. And then I came to this page, which, without reading it, I was thinking maybe it's stylistic, maybe it's mixed media, but I'm pretty sure that it's just a weird error, or somebody just thought they'd make a nice pattern in the page. But it does line up with this. I mean, it doesn't perfectly line up, but like reading it wise, it matches up, but it doesn't line up. So that I've never seen that before. And then I was like having a little bit more of a flick through, and I came to this page which just has a snowflake in it. So I don't really know. Look, there's another one. I don't really know what's happened to this book, but I'm really intrigued. I'm 90% sure that they're probably printing errors and not deliberate. But I mean, I'm still interested by the premise of the book. I'm just, what's happened to it? Anyway, I got this one as well. I don't know which one to read for this video. As I said, kind of leaning towards this one. The reviews on the back of this say it's a work of sprawling imagination and luminous writing. Red Dust, White Snow is a dizzying, inventive, page-turning debut. Well, that makes me even more excited. I think the cover for this one pulled me in the most initially. I don't know, maybe this one. I'll let you know which one I pick, but these are the 4 books that I bought in October Books. I will come back with an update as to which book I end up reading and what my thoughts on what my thoughts on it are. I don't think I've told you what book I even picked yet, but I finished Red Dust, White Snow for this video. This is by Pan Hooting. This is set between reality and dreams, but also like a virtual world, and how those kind of things are integrated into our lives and is potentially becoming more and more real of a threat as the virtual world blurs with the real one. It was a very interesting concept, and I liked the idea of the endless possibilities of this virtual dream world. I think that was a really interesting thing to be able to explore, and I think this did make it feel kind of whimsy in places for that exploration. In other places, I felt like this was a little bit too all over the place and a little bit too jolty with the narrative, and at times that was confusing. And I think that when you've got something that is dealing with this kind of a topic, it can be confusing because that's the whole point. It's blurring these lines. But for me, it felt disconnected. I didn't really feel like I cared too much about these characters or what was happening with them. I think the more interesting hook of this book was the overall conversation that it was having about society's link with the virtual world and living still in the real world and what that means and the difference between the two and how we disconnect our brain from the virtual world. And I think those conversations I found more interesting. The writing style was fine, it flowed okay. The stylistic choice of not having speech marks when you're in the kind of dream-esque world was a choice. I get why it was done because it made it feel separate from the real world and it kind of had that division, but I find that really jolting because you never know if what you're reading is meant to be dialogue or not until you've got to the end of the sentence, really. So I don't love it when books don't have speech marks. But overall, do you know what? I feel kind of meh about it. I don't feel like I have a great deal to say about it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was fine, but I didn't love it. That does mean that October Books sits on 20.5 out of a total of 25 points. That is it for episode 9 of Cover to Cover. I am so glad I got to go to somewhere called October Books in October. It was just a great time. I love being able to go to all these independent bookshops, and I really hope that you enjoy coming on these journeys with me. I only have 1 left to film for this year. 1! I don't know how that's happened. I'm so excited, but I really hope that you've been enjoying this series. Please let me know if you have in the comments, and if you would like to see a season 2 and where you would like me to go maybe in season 2. If you've been seeing that I am going to bookshops near your local area and you know of a bookshop nearby, please let me know. It's tricky to work out which ones to go to because I essentially draw like a big circle around where I live and how far I'd be willing to drive and work out how many there are in those local areas, but please let me know if you know of any that you think are nearby and you would like me to visit. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you so much to National Book Tokens for sponsoring this series. You can find everything you need about them linked down below. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.